might never have been cut, nor their complicated secrets revealed if I hadn't gotten a letter early in July 2008 from John Stauffer, Distinguished Professor of English, American Studies, and African American Studies at Harvard, asking me to deliver the Massey Lectures in the History of American Civilization. After reading the letter, I cycled through the familiar antics of disbelief. Forehead slapping, eye rolling, exaggerated scrutiny of the envelope for an error, but no. They wanted me, a photographer, to deliver the 3 scholarly lectures at Harvard, beginning on my 60th birthday, 3 years down the road, in May 2011. Rushing to my daytimer, I searched in vain for a conflict. In fact, I searched in vain for a calendar page that far in the future. No way could I reasonably decline. Years earlier, my brilliant young friend Neil Mackenzie had been given to prefacing his ironically self-inflating forecasts with the line, "Well, Sally, when they asked me to deliver the Massey Lectures." I had heard this refrain so many times that the Masseys had come to represent for me the pinnacle of intellectual achievement. But I didn't think of myself as much of an intellectual, and I certainly was no academic. I wasn't even a writer. And what did I have to write about, even supposing I could? I had acquired some acclaim and notoriety, as well as the irritating label controversial, in the early 1990s with the publication of my 3rd book of photographs, Immediate Family. In it were pictures I had made of my children, Emmett, Jesse, and Virginia, going about their lives, sometimes without clothing, on our farm tucked into the Virginia hills. Out of a conviction that my lens should remain open to the full scope of their childhood, and with willing creative participation from everyone involved, I photographed their triumphs, confusion, harmony, and isolation, as well as the hardships that tend to befall children. Bruises, vomit, bloody noses, wet beds, all of it. In a case of cosmically bad timing, the release of Immediate Family coincided with a moral panic about the depiction of children's bodies and a heated debate about government funding of the arts. I had received grants from the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities, but not for the pictures of my children. Much confusion, distraction, internal struggle, and, ultimately, fuel for new work emerged from this embattled period. Would the Massey Committee at Harvard expect me to justify my family pictures all these years later? I didn't mind doing that, but I hoped I could also focus on the work that came afterward. Deeply personal explorations of the landscape of the American South, the nature of mortality and the mortality of nature, intimate depictions of my husband, and the indelible marks that slavery left on the world surrounding me. With trepidation, I called John Stauffer, and his answer only made me more anxious. "Anything. Speak about anything you want." Oppressed by this indulgence and uncertain how to proceed, I went into a spasm of self-doubt and fear so incapacitating that it was nearly a year before I told Stauffer I'd do it. And then, as often happens to me, the self-doubt that had dammed up so much behind its seemingly impermeable wall allowed the first trickles of hope and optimism to seep out, and through the widening crack, possibility flooded forth. Insecurity for an artist can ultimately be a gift, albeit an excruciating one. I began looking for what I had to say where I usually find it, in what William Carlos Williams called the local. I wonder if he would think my admittedly extreme interpretation, working at home, seldom leaving the spacious plenty of our farm, too much local. For Larry, it sometimes is. He once irritatedly clocked 5 weeks during which I didn't so much as go to the grocery store. But like a high-strung racehorse who needs extra weight in her saddle pad, I like a handicap and relish the aesthetic challenge posed by the limitations of the ordinary. Conversely, I get a little panicked when I have before me what the comic strip character Pogo once referred to as insurmountable opportunities. It is easier for me to